The maid's heartwarming kiss transformed a millionaire's life. His daughter's amazing plan exposed. In the affluent suburban neighborhood of Maplewood, where everything gleamed as if dipped in gold, Sarah stood out in her modest uniform. When she smiled, it was like a burst of sunshine breaking through even the grayest skies. At 28, life had thrown her plenty of challenges, but her laughter was the armor she wore during her long days tending to the Thorne family's extravagant home. While polishing silverware and fluffing pillows, she thought of her mom and younger siblings crammed into their tiny apartment. They needed her strength, and she found meaning in her hard work. Yet, across the sprawling mansion, in a world shadowed by privilege, Jason Thorne felt as though he was fading away. At 35, he was a ghost in his own life, surrounded by wealth but starved for warmth. The weight of family expectations hung heavy on his shoulders, pressing down like an anchor. He watched his daughter, Emily, frolicking through the gardens with a sparkle in her eyes that mirrored Sarah's cheer, yet he couldn't shake the feeling of isolation that engulfed him. One rainy afternoon, while tidying the living room, a careless turn of her wrist sent a family portrait tumbling to the ground. The crash echoed, and Jason appeared, his face a mix of surprise and something softer desperation. As Sarah burst into laughter at her clumsiness, their eyes met, and time seemed to freeze. In that shared moment, both felt an unexpected connection stir. He, longing for lightness, she, unburdening the weight of her world, even if just for an instant. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Little did they know, the spark ignited in that moment had not gone unnoticed. With her youthful spirit and the boundless imagination of an 8-year-old, Emily decided to play matchmaker. She was convinced that her father needed Sarah's kindness to feel alive again. But as Emily schemed, she was blissfully ignorant of the chasm between their worlds. At the annual community charity event, the air buzzed with laughter and warmth, a stark contrast to the isolation that clung to Jason. It was here that Sarah saw the other side, where the Thorne family ran freely, while her own neighborhood looked on with charity in their eyes. Then, Emily's innocent intentions unraveled when rumors began to swirl, threatening Sarah's integrity. Jason's mother, with her cold, steely demeanor, dropped comments that slashed through Sarah's heart, and the fissures between them deepened. The tension became palpable. Families gathered, traders from different worlds clashing, and deep-rooted prejudices began to surface. Would Jason muster the courage to confront the expectations of his family when it came to Sarah? Just as their worlds collided, testimony of love and acceptance hung precariously in the balance. Just then, Emily clutched a paper in her small fist, her face a mix of worry and hope, that had the power to change everything. Would it bring them closer or tear them apart? In the shadows of uncertainty, the weight of their choices loomed heavy. As the charity event progressed, Jason found himself drifting through the crowd, feeling more like an outsider than ever. Laughter echoed around him, but it made his heart ache. He kept glancing towards the entrance, hoping to see Sarah's familiar smile. He thought about how that laugh brightened even his darkest days. The tension wrapped around him like a suffocating fog. Meanwhile, Emily's heart raced as she clutched the paper in her small hand. It was a drawing, her version of a perfect family, complete with Jason, Sarah, and her in the center, smiling brightly. In her childlike innocence, she believed this drawing could bridge the gap between their worlds. Just as she was about to approach her father, Jason's mother caught sight of Emily and whisked her away to socialite friends, drawing her even further into the maze of expectation. "I need to tell him," Emily whispered under her breath, fighting against the tide of people around her. She couldn't help but think about how Sarah made everything feel right again. Maybe he'll see it after the party, she concluded, clutching the drawing tightly, her resolve firm despite the swirling tension in the air. Across the room, Jason spotted Sarah from a distance, standing by the refreshment table. She was laughing with another staff member, her laughter so genuine that it was infectious. He realized that standing in the shadows, he longed to step forward, to finally acknowledge the bond forming between them. But when he thought of his mother's disdainful comments, he hesitated. Was he really ready to stake everything on something that could be transient? Maybe she's just a maid. A voice echoed through Jason's mind, the words heavy and crushing. It was his mother's disdain he couldn't shake, always reminding him of status and propriety. Still, against that backdrop, Sarah caught his eye, and for a moment, the rest of the world faded. He made up his mind, pushing past the doubt. Gaining his courage, he approached her. "Hey, Sarah," he said, his voice steady despite the tumult within. She turned, and the warmth radiating from her smile made the uncertainty wane. "Hi, Mr. Thorne. How's the party treating you?" she asked, her tone bright as the colors she wore. "Better now. I don't know what it is, but you make everything feel lighter." The confession tumbled from his lips before he could rethink it. "What?" she replied, surprise flashing in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by warmth. Before he could respond, Emily appeared at Jason's side, bouncing on her feet. "Daddy! Look what I made!" She thrust the drawing into his hands, her eyes sparkling with hope. As Jason looked down at the picture, he felt something shift. There was no perfect wording that could break the barriers, but Emily's innocent expression filled him with determination. The slight tension coiled tighter when Jason's mother approached. "What's this, dear?" she queried, her voice dripping with disapproval as she eyed Sarah. Jason's heart ached watching his mother's judgmental gaze. But he remembered how the laughter of Sarah had pulled him from despair, just like his daughter's hopeful eyes ignited something within him. "This is a family," he declared, holding the drawing up in clear defiance. "And it's time we make it real." A silence fell over the room, creating a space that was thick with tension and anticipation. Everything hung on his next words, and he felt Sarah's heart racing beside him, sensing the shift around them. As he turned to Emily, embracing the moment of truth, he realized he was ready to step off the edge. But was he prepared to face the fallout that would inevitably come? The air crackled with uncertainty, and as everyone held their breath, Jason knew the choice he was about to make could change their lives forever. Would he fight for what felt right, or would he retreat into the shadows of expectation once more? Jason stood there, the drawing held high, trembling slightly in the air. His mother's eyes narrowed, a storm brewing behind her perfectly painted facade. "You can't be serious, Jason," she said, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. "This is not how you represent our family." This woman?" The word stung, and for a brief moment, he felt the weight of her expectations crushing him. But Emily's bright, innocent eyes were all he could see. They were desperate for his approval, her hope clinging to the moment like cotton candy at a carnival. "Mom," he replied, his voice stronger than he felt inside. "Sarah may not come from the same world as us, but that doesn't define who she is. I choose to see her for who she really is." He heard the tremble of uncertainty in his voice but pushed through. Sarah was watching, her expression unreadable, yet he noticed a flicker of gratitude mingling with the fear in her eyes. This was more than a small moment, it felt monumental. "Jason, think about your future. What will people say? Is this really worth the scandal?" His mother pressed, her words laced with panic. "I'm not living in fear anymore," Jason asserted, glancing at Sarah, who stood there, unsure whether to move closer or distance herself. "I've spent too long trying to meet everyone's expectations except my own or Emily's." His heart raced, every word feeling like a release of years of pent-up frustration. Emily's excitement bubbled over. "We're a family, and Sarah is part of it. She makes us happy." Standing between them, her innocent declaration seemed to swell in the air as if the universe was waiting to affirm her claim. A whisper spread through the crowd, floating around them like a zephyr. Some people looked on in disbelief, while others whispered encouragement. Jason took a step toward Sarah, his heart pounding loudly in his ears. The urge to protect Emily and Sarah from the backlash felt primal. "Do you want this, Sarah?" he asked, turning his full attention back to her. "I know this could get messy, but I can't pretend anymore. You make my life brighter." Sarah hesitated, the words struggling within her. Jason could see her battling internal demons. What would become of her if she stepped into this world? It was a circus of judgment and expectation. "Can we really?" she said softly, her voice trembling. Before Jason could answer, his mother interjected, "You don't know the implications of this decision, Jason. You have a duty." A duty. That single word anchored Jason momentarily, clouding his mind with images of obligations he never wanted. But between the obligations and the love he felt for Emily and Sarah, he could only hear his daughter's laughter mingling with the warmth of his feelings for Sarah. "I don't care about duties if they mean losing what truly matters," he said, his voice resolute. Just then, Emily tugged on his sleeve, her eagerness palpable. "Can I give her the drawing? Please?" With a faint smile, he nodded. Emily turned and ran into Sarah's arms, offering the drawing with a flourish. "For our family," she declared, her eyes wide with wonder. The tension started to melt. Sarah crouched down, accepting the drawing with a soft gasp, her smile brightening the dimming room around them. "It's so beautiful, Emily," she said, tears glistening in her eyes. Jason, his mother breathed, faced with a reality she hadn't anticipated. As Sarah stood and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, it felt like a tentative bridge being built between worlds. Just then, the unexpected weight of emotion in the air shifted. "It's time I step into this with honesty," Jason said, with a steely resolve. "Will you join me?" But as he extended his hand toward Sarah, sensing the collective breath being held around him, realization struck. The chaos ahead would be monumental, and love alone wouldn't shield them from the coming storm. Emily beamed as Sarah took Jason's hand, a fresh wave of courage filling the room. And yet, beneath the surface, Jason wondered, was love truly enough to break through the walls that loomed around them? Could they forge a path in a world ready to tear them apart? As they stood together, the air thick with possibility, a new challenge emerged. Would his mother let this go? Or would she fight him every step of the way? The real battle was just beginning. Emily squeezed Sarah's hand tightly, the connection between them solidifying something bigger than mere words could express. In that moment, their humble group became a bastion of hope, radiating warmth despite the looming shadows at the edges of the gathering. The whispers that once buzzed in uncertainty were now laced with intrigue, flickers of excitement bursting like fireflies in the dim light of the room. "Can you feel it?" Jason whispered to Sarah, his eyes locked on hers. He found strength in the way her gaze held his. "This moment is ours. Whatever they think, whatever they say, they can't take it away from us." The tension in the room seemed to sizzle, mingling with a mix of disbelief and admiration. Jason's mother stood there, her composure cracking like porcelain in the face of genuine connection. "This isn't just about you, Jason. This affects all of us," she managed, her voice wavering at the edges. Jason could sense the fragility of his mother's world, the one built on the foundation of appearances. He understood the weight she bore but couldn't carry it for her anymore. "I know," he replied softly. "But I have to be true to myself and to Emily. Sarah deserves to be seen for who she is, not who you think she should be." As the words lingered, a hush enveloped the room. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. Emily watched her father, her small fingers still intertwined with Sarah's, bubbles of hope dancing in her eyes. "We're all different, but we can be happy together," she said as if it were the simplest truth in the world. "You'll see." Jason's heart cracked open a little wider. His daughter brought lightness even while standing on such precarious ground. Suddenly, he felt a swell of gratitude for Emily's innocence. She saw a world in shades of possibility rather than outlines of expectation. Sarah glanced at Emily, then Jason. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she blinked them back, determination replacing doubt. "If this is a family, I want to be part of it," she said, voice steady now. "I want to try together." The shift felt monumental. Jason's resolve hardened, as if he were cementing a promise to himself and to them. He took a step closer to his mother. "If you care about me, then please try to understand. This isn't just a phase or rebellion. This is love. Love is messy and reckless, but it's also the most beautiful thing." His mother's expression wavered, the fight in her eyes dimming under the weight of his honesty. But just as Jason felt they were making ground, her voice rang out again, sharper than before. "You think it's just love? What about the future? Your legacy? What's at stake here? Is my happiness not part of my legacy?" He rebutted, his voice rising slightly. Emily squeezed Sarah's hand tighter, sensing the sudden shift in energy. "I want Emily to grow up in a world where courage isn't just bravery in silence but where it's embodied in every action we take, every choice we make." As the silence that followed settled like a soft blanket, Jason's mother took a deep breath, her eyes glistening. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she finally whispered. "But I need time to think." Jason's heart sank a little, a glimmer of hope extinguished just as quickly. Yet, he also felt the unmistakable presence of movement, both forward and backward. With their hands linked together, Jason looked at Sarah and then Emily. "We can face anything together," he stated firmly, determination blazing in his chest. "It's a start," Sarah whispered, her eyes shimmering with a mix of excitement and trepidation. But as they stood on the precipice of change, a chilling realization crept in: the melody of disapproval had only just begun to echo through their lives. What awaited them outside this moment of courage would be a storm they had yet to weather. Would they step into the chaos hand in hand, or would the bond they forged become a target in the crosshairs of judgment? What would it take for Jason to choose love over the expectations that had always governed him? The path ahead was murky, but the urgency of deciding what came next loomed large. Jason felt the air thickening, the weight of unspoken words balancing on a knife's edge. His mother's retreat gave space for the tension to breathe, but something simmered beneath the surface. He looked at Sarah, her eyes reflecting uncertainty, and then at Emily, who still clung to hope. "What now?" Sarah whispered, breaking the silence that felt oppressive. He took a deep breath. "Now, we find a way forward. We can't let fear dictate our lives." He turned to Emily and knelt in front of her. "Hey, kiddo, you're the reason we're doing this. What do you want to do?" Emily paused, thinking deeply. "I want everyone to be happy together," she said, her small voice carrying more weight than he would have imagined. "And I want Grandma to know more about Sarah. Maybe if she understood, she would see how nice she is." "I think that's a great idea," Jason replied, his heart swelling with pride. There was a purity in her belief that love could bridge divides, a hope he wished to carry into the future. "Then let us invite her over for lunch." Emily's excitement was infectious, her brown curls bouncing as she nodded enthusiastically. "We'll do it together, just the four of us," Jason said, his own resolve firming up. "It's important we take this step, as a family. We'll show her the real us." As they plotted their small rebellion against the status quo, Jason's mother retreated to the kitchen, her expression taut but contemplative. He caught a glimpse of her through the doorway. She stared out the window, lost in thought. He knew this couldn't be easy for her. She had always been the matriarch of a certain image, one he was now ready to unravel piece by piece. The kitchen smelled faintly of vanilla, her favorite scent. He felt a pang of nostalgia, recalling simpler moments when joy didn't have strings attached. "Do you think she'll accept Sarah?" Sarah asked, drawing him back to the present. "It's going to take time. But we're going to show her that we're still us, no matter what." As the afternoon drifted, their plans started to take shape. They de-baked cookies, the gooey chocolate chips representing layers of sweetness they hoped to mix into the brewing storm outside. While Emily and Sarah prepared the batter, Jason found himself still grappling with his mother's earlier skepticism. The truth swirled in his mind like dust dancing in the sunlight. His love for Sarah was genuine, but was it enough to change his mother's heart? Suddenly, the doorbell rang, slicing through the laughter and the aroma of freshly baked cookies. Jason's stomach twisted. "That's her, isn't it?" Emily squeaked, excitement masking anxiety. "Yes," he replied, straightening his shoulders. "Let us do this." He looked at Sarah, whose face mirrored his own mix of anticipation and nerves. Would they truly be ready to face the music? As he opened the door, his mother stood there, a curious expression etched onto her features. Emily peeked out from behind him, her little face a mask of innocent hope. "Mom, we've been baking," he said, forcing the words past the knot in his throat. "We'd love for you to join us." Her eyes flickered to Sarah, uncertainty clear in her gaze, but there was something else too, a hint of curiosity mingled with the awareness of the change that approached. As they prepared to step into this pivotal moment together, a small voice in the back of Jason's mind whispered doubts. Would love prevail? Would they be able to find unity? The future began taking shape before him like the raw dough in Emily's small hands, but what kind of cake would they bake together, and would it rise? With each heartbeat, the question echoed louder, how deep is their love, and what storms would it withstand? And as the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the room, he braced himself for the answer. Jason's mother stepped inside, her gaze bouncing from the freshly baked cookies to the excited expressions on her son's face and Sarah's warm smile. The tension crackled in the air, thick enough to slice through. He bit his lip, waiting for her to respond. "Wow, it smells wonderful in here," she finally said, forcing a grin. It didn't quite reach her eyes. "Thanks, Mom. Emily helped us make them," Jason replied, trying to match her enthusiasm. He gestured toward the kitchen where Emily was busy arranging the cookies on a plate, her little fingers delicately placing each one as if it was a masterpiece. Jason's mom moved to stand next to Emily. "Did you have fun?" "Yeah," Emily said, beaming. "We have chocolate chips and vanilla frosting. Would you like to try one?" She held one up, her face shining with hope. "Of course, sweetie." His mother took the cookie but didn't take a bite. Instead, she fiddled with it, her gaze wandering to Jason. The unspoken question hung in the air: where was Sarah in all of this? "Mom," Jason said slowly, "I want you to meet Sarah properly. You've seen her around, but she's important to us. Can we sit down and just talk?" She opened her mouth, then closed it, wrestling with her thoughts. The silence stretched on, prickly and raw. At this moment, Sarah stepped forward, her confidence budding like a flower through the cracks. "Hi, Mrs. Anderson. I'm really happy to be here. I hope we can have a nice conversation." Jason watched his mother's expression flicker. Surprise, then apprehension. Beneath her perfectly styled exterior, turmoil brewed. "Let us sit at the table," Jason suggested, trying to muster his mother's strength. They moved to the dining room, Emily bouncing beside them with an ever-enthusiastic smile. She climbed onto a chair, her eyes darting between Sarah and her grandmother. "Can I help?" "I would love that," Sarah said, crouching down to Emily's level, her voice gentle. "How about we decorate one with frosting together?" "Okay." Emily's delight lit up the room as she grabbed a few tubes of icing, handing them to Sarah. Jason and his mother settled at the table, the distance between them an ocean of unsaid words. Jason's heart raced. This was it. He needed to bridge that gap. "Look, Mom," Jason began, tension gathering in his voice. "I know this is new, and maybe hard to understand. But Sarah makes me happy. She's loyal and kind, and beyond that, she cares about Emily just as much." His mother's grip tightened around her cup. It's not that simple, Jason. You're asking me to accept a lot in such a short time. I know it's a lot. But love doesn't always fit into neat little boxes. He felt warmth rise in his chest, a mixture of protectiveness and sincerity. Would it help to get to know her better? I want you both to see each other for who you are, not what you believe. A moment passed. Would this be the turning point? Well, I suppose getting to know her can't hurt. She hesitated, then continued, but I can't promise I will understand right away. I'm okay with that, Jason replied, his voice steady. We can take it one step at a time, together. Emily laughed as they managed to squeeze frosting onto the cookies, their laughter filling the room, blending the sweet aromas of love and acceptance. But in that fleeting moment of joy, Jason could see his mother's internal struggle reflected in her tight smile and shaky hands. What was really at stake? He wanted so badly for her to embrace the things he loved. The afternoon light faded, shadows dancing across the walls, wrapping them in uncertainty. Would they find the courage to reshape their family's future? As the cookies were decorated, Jason's heart thudded with hope. He caught his mother's eye. Can we try to be a family? All of us? And with that question hanging heavy in the air, the door to change stood ajar. Would they step through, or would fear drag them back? Jason's heart raced as he searched his mother's eyes for a flicker of understanding. She hesitated, her mouth opening slightly as if the words were stuck in her throat. Emily, blissfully unaware, continued to decorate the cookies, smearing an abundance of frosting onto one that was decidedly more cover than cookie. The room felt alive with the sounds of laughter, yet Jason felt the gravity of the moment pressing against him. Can we be a family? He repeated, softer this time, his gaze steady. Even if it takes time? For a brief instant, he saw something in his mother's expression, a concession, perhaps? Then it was gone, replaced by the careful wall she always maintained. I want to, Jason. I truly do. But it's not just about us. It's complicated. What do you mean? This was the crux of it. The complication swirled in the air like the scent of vanilla frosting. His mother took a deep breath, finally seeming to settle into the moment. Sarah is different from what I imagined for you. What I've always imagined. Jason's pulse quickened. This was the crack he needed to work with. Different how? His mother's fingers played with the edge of her cup. You need to understand that I have my own expectations. I want you to be happy, but you can't let go of what you thought my future would look like? Jason pressed, feeling emotions flood forth. Mom, life isn't a checklist. You taught me that. Her eyes softened slightly, the surface of their history glimmering as if tested by the warmth in the room. I did. But sometimes I get scared. Scared of watching you make choices that I don't fully understand. Jason's heart ached. I'm not asking you to approve straight away. Just to be open. Open, she echoed, as if tasting the word. That feels like a lot to digest right now. Sarah, overhearing their conversation, paused in her decorating. If it helps, I'm just as nervous. I want to be part of your family as well, but I'm not trying to take anyone's place. Jason's mother turned to Sarah, and he watched the interplay between them with hope. I know, she said quietly, then added, what do you see when you look at my son? Jason held his breath, praying for Sarah to convey her love without hesitation. I see someone who is kind and ready to fight for what he loves, Sarah replied, her voice steady. Someone who deserves happiness and support. They all froze for a heartbeat, the weight of her words settling like a soft quilt draping over a chill. Support, Jason's mother repeated thoughtfully, her brow furrowing. That's what families should offer. But it's hard when everything feels so different. No one ever said it would be easy, Jason said, a hint of urgency creeping into his tone. We'll take it one cookie at a time, if we have to. Emily laughed again, unaware of the emotional roller coaster. Can we make one giant cookie next? That sounds like a great idea. Sarah replied, her enthusiasm infectious. But even as the laughter rolled back in, Jason felt a tightening in his chest. They were still tiptoeing around the real journey ahead. Would his mother ever truly let Sarah into her heart? Could they build their new family together, or were they still far from finding common ground? As the cookies piled up, Jason cautiously placed his hand over his mother's. The moment felt fragile, filled with potential but also uncertainty. Let's South walk this road together, please. For every cookie we bake, let us create a memory, he urged, squeezing her hand gently. For a fleeting second, he thought he saw her guard crack just a bit more. All right, she said finally, looking him directly in the eye, determination hardening her voice. Together. But you'll have to be patient with me, okay? You have my word, Jason promised, relief washing over him. But as the shadows deepened and the cookies dried, a new challenge loomed, for love is never simple, and the path to acceptance can be rocky. What obstacles would they face next, as they ventured into this uncharted territory of togetherness and hope? The smell of sugar and butter hung in the air as laughter blended with the sounds of cookie sheets sliding around the counter. Jason felt a flicker of warmth, a little light in the uncertainty that still loomed. Emily, with her frosting-covered hands, was a joyful whirlwind, making the room lighter somehow, but Jason still worried. The moment they shared with his mother was charged. He wanted to believe her promise of patience. Okay, Mom. Emily chirped, oblivious to the tension, let us make the giant cookie now. Her enthusiasm was magnetic, pulling Jason's mother into the moment. Setting their work aside, the trio gathered around a large mixing bowl. The ingredients, flour, sugar, eggs, looked like bright symbols of their journey ahead. As they blended, Jason felt his mother relax into the rhythm of the activity. Remember the time we made those rainbow cookies? Jason's mother suddenly said, the reminiscence in her voice tugging at his heart. Yeah. We made a mess, Emily giggled, but they tasted great. Jason picked up on the warmth in his mother's tone as she laughed, remembering. And do you remember how we decorated them, too? I thought we made the best designs ever. As they mixed, Jason noticed Sarah standing slightly apart, observing the exchange. Her smile was genuine, but he could see the worry flickering in her eyes. He wanted to reassure her, to let her know this was progress, but it wasn't enough yet. He reached for her hand, squeezing it lightly, sharing a moment of strength. You know, Jason said, talking about cookies always makes the worries feel lighter. It's like we're mixing our dreams together. Exactly. Emily exclaimed, and today, we're creating something new together. For a moment, they all shared an understanding, a bond that stretched beyond fear. Yet as they poured the batter onto the tray, Jason's phone buzzed on the counter. He hesitated but then picked it up. The text was from his father, a simple "how's it going?" But the weight of the world hung in that one message. Would his father be supportive? Or did he carry expectations also? He glanced at his mother. The walls were still there, thick and oppressive. He took a deep breath, unsure if he should let this moment of levity vanish or push forward. It's going well, he texted back, we're making cookies. It felt like a mini report from the heart, simple and clear. Parents, huh? Sarah said softly, nudging Jason's side, breaking the tension in the air. It's complicated, isn't it? Yes, he replied, his heart heavy. But that doesn't mean we can't build it right. As they spread frosting on the giant cookie, an idea jumped into Jason's mind. What if, he said slowly, we each write something that represents how we feel about being together? On the cookie? We can decorate with words. His mother's brows rose slightly. Words on the cookie? Like a message? Yeah. It's our giant cookie of hope, he explained, his eyes brightening. A way to show what we want this to be. Jason watched as his mother considered the idea. The wheels in her head were turning. That could be surprisingly meaningful, she finally said, a glimmer in her eye that felt like a small breakthrough. With frosting tubes in hand, they started writing phrases: hope, support, and family. Jason listened as his mother whispered to herself while decorating. Together, she said softly, as if the word itself had still to fully settle in her heart. Minutes passed, and laughter filled the kitchen once more. But Jason couldn't shake the unease about the upcoming dinner with his father. Would he understand? Would he fight against his son's newfound family? Just then, as they took a step back to admire their giant cookie creation, the doorbell rang. Jason's heart sank. That LLB Dad! The warmth in the kitchen faded slightly, turning into a cool rush of apprehension. His mother looked at him, eyes full of uncertainty. Are we ready for this? She asked quietly as he slowly walked towards the door. Jason paused, his hand on the doorknob. I don't know, he whispered back, but we're about to find out. He opened the door, and in that moment, the real challenge began. Would they all take a bite of this new life, or would they crumble under the weight of old expectations? As Jason swung the door open, a wave of mixed emotions hit him. His father stood there, tall and imposing, yet his eyes held a hint of weariness. Dressed in his usual dark suit, he looked out of place in the light, warm atmosphere of the kitchen filled with laughter and cookie scents. For a moment, the world outside faded away, and all Jason could hear was the beating of his heart, echoing doubts in his head. Hey, Dad, he said, trying to mask the tension in his voice. Jason, his father replied, glancing quickly behind him, taking in the sight of his mother and Emily, still giggling about their giant cookie masterpiece. Come in, Jason managed, stepping aside. The frosted giant cookie lay on the counter, a stark contrast to the weight of what loomed over them. His father entered, the door closing with a soft click that somehow felt like a dividing line between two worlds: his past and the uncertain future. The laughter faltered as his dad's stern gaze swept across the room. Nice cookie, he said, an awkward smile creeping onto his face as he inspected their efforts. Thanks. It's a giant cookie of hope. Emily chirped, her excitement unblemished. As his father bent down to get a better look, Jason held his breath. Would this be a moment of connection? Would his dad embrace the spirit Emily had brought into their kitchen? Interesting concept, he replied, straightening up, but his voice lacked warmth. Jason's heart sank a little deeper as he watched his father step back, a wall building again. Mom and I were just trying to create something together, Jason said, hoping to steer the conversation away from the tension. You know, a bonding experience. His father crossed his arms, a habit Jason remembered all too well. Bonding, huh? And what about the rest of us? You've barely come around since. He trailed off, his eyes shifting away. That's the past, Dad, Jason interrupted, feeling fire ignite in him. I'm trying to figure out a new way forward for all of us. Is this new recipe really the solution to everything? Jason's father challenged, a flicker of skepticism in his eyes. It was Emily who stepped forward, undeterred by the tension. It's about more than just cookies. It's about how we want to feel together. The words hung in the air, and for a brief second, Jason saw something shift in his father's eyes. Was it confusion or perhaps a glimmer of realization? I don't understand all this, his father muttered, shaking his head. Can't we just keep things how they were? It's safer that way. Jason felt a wave of frustration wash over him. Dad, safer doesn't equal happier. This is us trying to change, to be better. Can't you see that? Silence enveloped the room, thick and heavy. Jason felt the weight of his words pressing down both on himself and his father. Suddenly, his mother stepped forward, finding courage in the chaos. This is it, Mark. We can't live in the past anymore. We need to embrace the chaos and find a new way. Maybe you giving this a chance will lead to something beautiful. Mom. Jason started to object, but she shot him a look that said, "Trust me." "Look around," she continued, her voice gaining strength. "What do you want our family to say 5 years from now? That we stayed stuck in the same old patterns, or that we learned to grow?" Jason could hardly breathe, the air feeling thick and electric with tension. He watched as his father shifted uneasily, wrestling with emotions under that cool exterior. The kitchen suddenly felt suffocating. Emily began to fidget, sensing the change in atmosphere. "Can we just eat the cookie now?" she asked, her small voice cutting through the heaviness. Jason exchanged glances with his mother, who nodded slightly. In that moment, Jason realized this was about more than cookies or even family. This was about diving into uncertainty, together. As Jason moved to cut the giant cookie, he glanced at his father, who stood with crossed arms, struggling to find the words. "So, Dad," Jason ventured. "Are you ready to take a bite out of this life with us?" The question hung like a cookie on the edge of a cooling rack, teetering but not yet fallen. Would he dive in, or would he walk away? As Jason held his breath, the air crackled with possibility. As Jason began to slice the giant cookie, anticipation hung thick in the air like the sweet smell of baked goodies. The knife moved with purpose, its edge gliding through soft dough to create generous portions. Jason glanced at his dad, whose expression was a tapestry of confusion and resistance. "Are we really doing this?" his father finally asked, the words almost a whisper. "This is what you want?" "It's not just what I want, Dad," Jason replied, heart racing. "It's what we all want. A chance to be a family. Not just some perfect image, but real connections, understanding." "I thought you wanted that too." For a moment, silence thrummed between them. The kitchen, once filled with laughter, felt like a cage. But then, Emily piped up, trying to lighten the mood like she always did. "Can we have frosting on top? That makes everything better." She grabbed the piping bag eagerly, eyes sparkling with innocence. Jason's mother watched their daughter with a hint of pride and pain. There was a flicker of recognition in Jason's father's eyes. "Your sister had her first birthday party. You remember how chaotic it was?" he asked, almost to himself. "She had frosting everywhere." "Exactly. And it was perfect," Jason interjected with determination. "Life is messy. But that mess includes love and growth." Without missing a beat, Emily continued. "And cookies. I want to share them." She turned to Jason's father, vulnerability shining in her bright eyes. "It'll taste good, I promise." Her words, pure and heartfelt, struck Jason's father deeply. For the first time, he seemed to soften, straining against his fortress of pride. Maybe I've been too rigid." His voice was barely louder than a whisper. Just then, a revelation washed over Jason. Transformations didn't happen overnight. They would take patience and an openness to the unpredictable chaos of life. "Dad, we can create something beautiful together, but it requires us to step beyond our comfort zones. We have to take risks." As Jason reached for the frosting, his heart leaped when he felt his mother place her hand on his shoulder, squeezing softly. A little signal of solidarity. "Okay, let us do this as a family," Jason's father finally agreed, uncertainty mingling with resolve. "But I need you to help me understand it all, son. I won't pretend it's easy." "Together is the key," Jason replied warmly. "Let us create a new tradition." Soon, icing swathe and flicks of colorful sprinkles filled the cookie surface under Emily's watchful eye. The energy softened, laughter bubbling up again like a flickering flame. In the warmth of that kitchen, the barriers of judgment began to crack. Jason could feel a sense of hope rising as they all gathered around the table, united by frosting and raw honesty. Finally, they each took a piece of the giant cookie, and as they bit into it, the chewy sweetness erupted, filling their mouths with warmth and comfort. Emily squealed with joy. "This is the best cookie ever." As they celebrated the little victories, Jason's heart flooded with gratitude. In that moment, he could see the bricks of expectation slowly breaking down. "I appreciate you trying, Dad," Jason said softly, compelled by the need to acknowledge this step. "It means a lot to me, to us." His father's gaze lingered on Jason, pride finally peeking through. "Let us keep building this. One cookie at a time," he said, a glimmer of acceptance in his eyes. Sarah, standing close by, felt the warmth of shared laughter as she squeezed Jason's hand tightly. "We've taken a big step," she whispered, tears shimmering in her eyes. "Yes, we have," Jason replied, knowing the journey was just beginning, but they would meet it with courage and love. "Family is what we make it," she said, her voice a soothing balm that promised hope. And as the kitchen filled with a myriad of laughter, with each bite of sweetness, a new chapter of their lives unfurled, one sprinkled with love, vulnerability, and the courage to embrace life's unpredictable beauty. So here's your moment. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this transformation with at least 5 friends. Let them experience this uplifting story too. Leave a like now to help us reach more hearts and feed the algorithm that brings you these tales, and comment below your feelings about this ending. What moments touched your heart? Your voice matters, and we want to hear from you.